Lily Evans didn't use ancient magic to protect Harry. And yes, let's return to this point once again. A while back, I explained why James's sacrifice didn't protect Harry the night Voldemort attacked them. I'll leave that in the description. But in recent years, I've seen more and more people credit Lily with intentionally using ancient magic to protect Harry, and this actually contradicts canon, and I'll explain why in detail. Let's start by saying that I appreciate Lily as a character. She is human, full of facets and imperfections that make her absolutely credible. Of course we know little about her from the canon, but not so little that we can't appreciate her. I say this to avoid being pointed out as a Lily hater, because I'm not. And I'm not trying to take away the merits that she has in the canon. We know that she was a very intelligent witch, skilled in potions, witty, and certainly essentially skilled at fighting, since we know that she escaped Voldemort 3 times during the war. Even if we don't know exactly what this means. Did she see him on the street and run away? Did she run into him at the supermarket and run away? Did she actually fight him and manage to save herself? This is not made clear in canon, but let's pretend that she actually managed to save herself on 3 different occasions. This certainly gives her good magical ability. Now let's move on to a fundamental point. Ancient magic in the canon is not really explained. Thanks to the video game Harry Potter, Hogwarts Legacy, we know a little more, and this is the canonical explanation. Magic this powerful can do great harm in the wrong hands. It must be wielded by a select few. Niam Fitzgerald. Furthermore, we are told that it is a very ancient, mysterious and powerful form of magic, the methods of which were almost forgotten in the wizarding world. By the end of the 19th century, those who could perceive it and had an affinity for it were considered to possess a unique and extremely rare ability. It was not widely known or understood, not even by the professors at Hogwarts. As fascinating as the idea is that Lily Evans was a witch capable of using such magic, this is just a theory not supported by any canonical evidence. So why do so many people believe this? Well, because Dumbledore assumes so. Let's go in order. In the first book, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, says this.
But then, why couldn't Quirrell touch me? You see, your mother died to save you. Now, if there's one thing that Voldemort can't conceive, it's love. He couldn't understand that a love as powerful as your mother's leaves a mark, not a scar, not a visible sign. Having been loved so deeply protects us forever, even when the person who loved us is no longer there. It's something that stays inside you, in your skin. Quirrell, who having given his soul to Voldemort was full of hatred, lust and ambition, couldn't touch you for this reason. For him, it was a torment to touch a person marked by a mark of such goodness.
So here in reality there's no mention of ancient magic. It's simply said that Lily, loving Harry, placed herself between him and Voldemort, and sacrificed herself. This gesture of immense love acted as a shield for Harry. This is the first version we hear, simpler and more superficial, since Ailent does not want to go into detail. Outside of the narrative fiction, we could safely say that the author had not really thought about the next twist. However, later in the 5th book, HP and the Order of the Phoenix, in chapter 37, The Lost Prophecy, Dumbledore reveals to Harry what he had hidden from him for years. I bring you the piece directly from the book.
You arrived at Hogwarts safe and sound, as I had planned and desired. Well, not exactly. You had suffered. When I left you on the steps of your uncle's house, I knew what your life would be. I knew I was condemning you to 10 difficult and dark years. She paused. Harry was silent. You might ask, and rightly so, why it had to be this way. Why didn't I entrust you to a wizarding family? Many would have welcomed you more than willingly, would have been honored and happy to raise you as a son. The answer is that my first concern was to keep you alive. You were in greater danger than anyone but me could understand. Voldemort had just been defeated, but his followers, many as fearsome as he, were still at large, furious, desperate, violent. And I had to make a decision for the years to come as well. Did I think that Voldemort was gone forever? No. I didn't know whether it would take 10, 20, or 50 years, but I was sure that he would return, and knowing him as I do, I was also sure that he would not rest until he had killed you. I knew that he knew more about magic than perhaps any living wizard. I knew that even my most complex and powerful protective spells would not be enough to save you if he regained his full powers. But I also knew his weak point. And so I decided. You would have been protected by an ancient magic that Voldemort knows but despises, and has therefore always underestimated, to his own cost. I refer, of course, to the fact that your mother died to save you. In doing so, she provided you with a lasting protection that Voldemort had not foreseen, a protection that still flows in your veins. So I placed my trust in your mother's blood. I entrusted you to her sister, her only living relative.
And here is the very first time that Dumbledore uses this term in ancient magic, but here the headmaster refers once again to Lily's love for Harry, not to an intentional spell, also because at that moment Lily does not have the wand in her hand, and in the saga this tool is essential to perform magic, apart from very few exceptions and specific cases. So sacrifice is what protects Harry. There is no ritual or spell, not even as Dumbledore intends it, who often speaks of the magic of love, which is a feeling and not an actual spell. So why, if the will to sacrifice oneself is enough to protect those we love, James' sacrifice did not protect Lily and Harry? I have already discussed this point, but to summarize, James certainly would have sacrificed himself for his family, and in a certain sense he did. He stood before Voldemort without a wand in the hope of giving Lily some time to escape, but he did not activate any protection because he had no chance of saving himself. And this is the fundamental point. In addition to the fact that he did not have a wand in his hand, like Lily, but on the contrary he was already done for, and this is linked to Voldemort's will. The Dark Lord in fact goes to the Potters with very clear ideas. We can read the scene from his point of view, in the 7th book in chapter 17, and we learn that he intends to kill Lily. He kills James without thinking twice, and plans to finish off Harry too, but he is convinced to spare Lily. This is the part of the book.
Avada Kedavra. The green light filled the narrow entrance, illuminated the wheelchair against the wall, made the bars of the balustrade sparkle like lightning rods. James Potter fell like a puppet whose strings had been cut. You could hear her screaming from upstairs, trapped, but if she wasn't doing anything stupid, at least she had nothing to fear.
She had nothing to fear, so it is clear. Voldemort thinks to spare her. We will get to that in a moment.
He climbed the stairs, listening amusedly to her attempts to barricade herself inside. She did not have her wand either.
Here we are told clearly, she did not have her wand either.
He forced the door, tossed aside the chair and the hastily stacked boxes with a lazy wave of his wand. She was standing, the baby in her arms. Seeing him, she placed the little one in the cot behind her and opened her arms, as if he could be of some use, as if by hiding him she hoped to be chosen in his place. No. Not Harry, please. Move, stupid, move. No, Harry. Take me instead, kill me, but not Harry. This is my final warning. Not Harry. Please. Please, not him. Not Harry. Please. I'll do anything. Move, move, girl. He could have pushed her off the bed by force, but he thought it was safer to finish them all. The green light flashed in the room and she fell like her husband.
There is no need to interpret or theorize here. We have the point of view of Voldemort, who was there in the first person, adult and absolutely lucid. Lily did not do any spell or ritual. She just opened her arms in a desperate attempt to shield Harry. But let's get back to the point from a moment ago. Why does Voldemort think he can spare Lily? Because Snape asked for mercy for her, and this point is essential and canonical. We come to know in the last book, through the memories Snape gives to Harry, that he tried to ask for mercy for Lily.
If she is so important to you, Dumbledore retorted, Lord Voldemort will spare her, won't he? Can't you ask for mercy for the mother in exchange for the son? I asked him.
It always amuses me a little how some fans use this fact to attack Snape when in reality it is the only real reason why Harry survived. If Snape had not asked for mercy and Voldemort had not decided to give Lily the freedom to save herself, then Harry would have died like his parents and there would never have been the boy who survived. And no, it is not an interpretation but an established fact, given that the same protection is also indirectly used by Harry in the last book. In fact, Voldemort makes the same mistake in his arrogance by giving Harry the chance to escape. During the Battle of Hogwarts he does not go looking for him, nor does he allow Snape to go and find him. He is convinced that Harry will come to him, and this was a huge mistake, because Harry, by deciding to go into the forest, makes the same sacrifice as his mother. I repeat, he could have escaped but decides to go to meet his death. And in the book, which unfortunately was not transposed into the film, this sacrifice protects the people Harry loves. In fact, during the battle, no one he cares about is killed after this moment. And once again we are told clearly by Harry,
You will not kill anyone else tonight, Harry replied. They were still moving in a circle and staring at each other. green eyes inside red eyes. You will not be able to kill any of them, ever again. Don't you understand? I was prepared to die to stop you from hurting these people. But you didn't. I meant to, and that's what matters. I did what my mother did. They are protected by you. Haven't you noticed that none of your spells work on them? You can't torture them. You can't touch them. You don't learn from your mistakes, Riddle, do you?
And like Lily, Harry didn't say any spells. He didn't perform any spells or rituals. He just sacrificed himself. If that's not enough, we can go back to a little while ago. When Harry is at King's Cross in his vision, Dumbledore himself tells him,
"But I should have died. I didn't defend myself. I wanted him to kill me. And that must have made, I think, all the difference."
Now for intellectual honesty I can understand where the confusion comes from, since shortly after Dumbledore says this,
"He took your blood believing it would strengthen him. He took into his body a tiny part of the enchantment your mother laid upon you when she died for you. His body keeps her sacrifice alive, and while that enchantment survives, so do you, and so does Voldemort's one last hope for himself."
What Dumbledore call an enchantment in fact is not a spell. It has no formula. It has no actual essence. It is, like the magic of love, the magic of music, of words, etc., something powerful that does not have the same rules as spells. In the Italian translation, this thing is a bit lost, since we call everything a spell when in relation here Dumbledore speaks of enchantment, which we could translate as incanto. Even if in Italian it is still a bit confusing, but the substance does not change. Lily did not produce an intentional spell. She made an instinctive sacrifice. This brings us to another point then. Why has this not happened other times throughout known history? From what we know, why has this phantom spell, that makes it impossible for one person to hurt another, not been used every time a loved one has been threatened? The answer is obvious, because this spell does not exist. As I said before, it is an instinctive sacrifice, that however has value only and exclusively if the one who sacrifices himself is honestly ready to give his life without fighting, and if the one who commits the murder is instead convinced of giving the person a chance to save themselves. So I repeat that it is the freedom of choice that makes all the difference. As I said several times in the saga, it is our choices that show who we really are.